Math! Hey everybody, this is Mr. Regner, and this is The Aftermath. Today on The Aftermath, we are focused on focus, and specifically, we are looking today at week 17, day 2. You can follow along at home with your own activity as we complete the questions here on the video. Be sure to also rewind, watch this as much as you want to, skip ahead, fast forward, do whatever you need to do to make sure you're preparing yourself for our focus quiz coming up this week. With all that being said, let's get a look at number 1. So for number 1, we have the crazy ant and the green anole. They're both found in Florida. A biologist measured the lengths of a crazy ant and a green anole that he had in his laboratory. His measurements are shown below. There's our crazy ant at 4/35 inches and the green anole at 8 inches. The length of the green anole is how many times greater than the length of the crazy ant? And of course, we have some multiple choice options. So really what we want to know is the green anole is going to be how many times greater than the length of the crazy ant. All right, so we know that 8 is going to equal something. We'll call it G times 4/35. So 8 is going to equal how many times greater the crazy ant is. All right, and so in order to do this, we can get the G alone. If this is G divided by 4/35, we can divide each side by 4/35. Okay, when we divide each side by 4 and 35, the G is alone, which is good. And then we have a division problem over here that I'm going to break out over on this side, and I'll do 8 divided by 4/35. But of course, I know the whole number 8 can turn into 8/1. I can then keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep, change, and flip. So 8/1 stays 8/1. I'm going to change my sign to multiplication, and then 35/4 because I flipped or used the reciprocal of my second fraction. At this point, I can cross simplify. I know that 4 and 8 have common factors of 4. So 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 8 2 times. So now I can multiply 2 times 35. That's going to give me 70, and then 1 times 1. So that's 70/1, or I know that's going to just equal 70. When I look over here at my multiple choice options, I have 70 listed in letter A. So I know that A is going to be the correct answer here. So really when you look at this, if you're looking for a shortcut or an easy way to remember this for your focus quiz, just know that we're taking the length of the green anole, the lizard, and dividing it by the length of the crazy ant. So lizard divided by ant. That's going to get you to where you need to be and get you your final answer. Let's go ahead and take a look now at number 2. Number 2 says, what is the total area of the polygon? And in this polygon, we have a trapezoid. So I can use the area formula for a trapezoid. Area equals B1 plus B2 times height divided by 2. When I do that, I need to know that my B1 and B2 are just my parallel lines. So I'm just going to substitute now the values. So I have 21.2 plus 26. By the way, if you mix those up, it doesn't really matter. Your height is going to be the one that has a 90-degree angle. That's 6.5. And then we'll divide by 2. So the first thing I do is just my parentheses, 21.2 plus 26. Now if I don't know that, I can work that off to the side, but I happen to be able to do this in my head. So I know I'm going to have 0.2, and then 6 plus 1 is 7, and then 2 plus 2 is 4. So that's 47.2. That's going to be multiplied by 6.5 and then divided by 2, but I'm going to multiply first because I'm following the order of operations in PEMDAS. All right, so unfortunately, I'm not able to do this in my head. 47.2 times 6.5. So I can actually do this off to the side. So let me grab a scrap sheet of paper here. Oh, all these papers all over the place. Here we go. So I have 47.2 times 6.5. Now it just so happens my decimals here are lined up, but they don't have to be because I'm multiplying. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 7 is 35 plus 1 is 36. 5 times 4 is 20 plus 3 is 23. add a 0 as a placeholder. 6 times 2 is 12. There's my 1. 6 times 7 is 42 plus 1 is 43. And then 6 times 4, that's going to be 24 plus 4 is 28. Now I add these up. That's 0. 6 plus 2 is 8. 3 plus 3 is 6. 8 plus 2 is 10. 2 plus 1 is 3. Now I move this decimal over once and that one once. That's 2. So I move it over 1, 2 spaces. So that means this is 306.8 or 8 tenths. So I can fill that in here. That's 306 and 8 tenths divided by 2. Well, wouldn't you know it, I've got a division problem and I don't know that off the top of my head. I can divide. So 306.8 divided by 2. I'm just kind of squeezing that in here. Okay? So 2 goes into 3 one time. That's 2. I subtract and get 0. I bring down my 0. That's 10. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. I subtract, I get 0. Bring down my 6. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. I subtract, get 0. Bring down my 8. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8. I subtract, I get 0. My decimal point just floats to the top right there. So my answer then is 153.4, 153 and 4 tenths. But I must include my label here, and my label, of course, for area is going to be centimeters squared. So I have to make sure I include that label. So there's our work for number 2. Again, we just use the area formula that we should know for a trapezoid, plug in the numbers that we know from the shape, and then it's just a matter of doing PEMDAS. Let's move on and take a look now at number 3. Number 3 says, you made 22 1/4 pints of orange marmalade. You want to store the marmalade in 3/4 pint jars. What is the minimum number of jars you will need? So to answer this question, I think it's easiest for us to visualize it. So imagine I have this big jug of marmalade, right? And I'm going to store it in these smaller jars, like 3/4 pint jars. Okay, what I'm going to be doing is I'm taking the big amount and dividing it up into the small amounts, the small jars. With that in mind, this is really just a division problem. So we can set it up that way right now on our papers and solve. All right, so I'm going to take the total amount of pints, that's 22 1/4 pints, divided by my 3/4 pint jars. Okay, and then from here, this is pretty simple stuff. I think most of us are accustomed to how to divide, but we want to make sure we turn this into an improper fraction first, and that way we'll have 2 fractions that we're dealing with. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply and add, and I'm realizing right now that that pen doesn't work. So we'll do that. 22 times 4 plus 1. Now, if I don't know what 4 times 22 is, I can always do the math, and I'm going to do that off to the side here. So 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 2 is still 8, that's 88. 88 plus 1 is 89, so this becomes 89 over 4 divided by 3/4. Now, if I'm dividing here, I can keep, change, flip, and that's what I need to make sure I do. So I have 89 over 4, change it to multiplication, and then flip or use the reciprocal on the second fraction. Here's where I can look and see if I can simplify. Now I have 4 and 4, and this is like, dreamland for me in cross simplification, because I know those both reduce down to 1. 4 goes into 4 once, and 4 goes into 4 once. I also have 89 and 3. Now, if you're not really sure if 3 goes into 89, what you might want to do is just add up 8 plus 9. That's going to give you 17. If 17 is divisible by 3, then 89 is divisible by 3. It turns out it's not. All right, so instead of wasting all of our time trying to figure out how many times 3 goes into 89, we know there's a shortcut. It's not divisible. So I'll just take 89 times 1 and 1 times 3. That gives me 89 over 3. So this is obviously an improper fraction. I want to turn that into a mixed number and see what I'm looking at here. So I'm going to take 3 as my divisor and 89 as my dividend, and then I can divide. So 3 goes into 8 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. Subtract, I get 2, bring down my 9. 3 goes into 29. I'll really like to think about this one. It's not quite 10, because 10 times 3 would be 30, so it must be 9. 9 times 3 is 27. Subtract, that gives me 2. Now here I have a remainder, and that remainder is going to become my numerator, with the divisor becoming my denominator. So my answer here is 29 2/3 to be exact. But this again is talking about jars, and we're putting marmalade in jars. It says, what's the minimum number of jars you will need? We can't use 29 jars because then we'll have 2/3 left over. It has to go in a jar. And we can't use 2/3 of a jar because nobody has the ability to cut glass, we're assuming here. So we have to take whatever number this is and round it up to the next whole number. So my final answer here is 30 jars because we're rounding up. Again, picture the marmalade. Always bring it back to the real life scenario here. We can't just have 2/3 of a jar of marmalade just sitting there in a puddle on our table. It has to go in a jar. All right, there you go. Hopefully that example helps you out. Let's go ahead now and take a look at number 4. Number 4 says the student council is organizing a school fair. Council members are making signs to show the prices for admission and for each game a person can play. So here we have the admission is $2.50. The price per game is 50 cents. Let X represent the number of games. Which expression can be used to determine the total amount in dollars a person pays for admission and playing X games? So X is the amount of games they play. So I always want to think about this before even looking at my options over here. I know they're going to pay the admission. That's $2.50 for the admission. I know I'm going to add that with the price per game, and then depending on how many games they play, that gets multiplied. So if they only play one game, that would be plus 50 cents. But if they play, let's say, 2 games, that 50 cents is multiplied by 2. If they play 10 games, 50 cents is multiplied by 10. Since we don't know how many games they're playing, we're going to multiply it by the variable they've given us, and that is X. So it's $2.50 plus the price per game times the number of games. Okay, so now that we've figured that out, we've done that expression on our own, let's take a look at the expressions here in A through E and see if they match up. Please keep in mind too that we're definitely going to have more than one correct answer. So letter A says 2.5 plus 0.5x. Take a look at what I wrote. I have 2.50 plus 0.50x. Is that the same thing? Hopefully you're all thinking, yes it is. These zeros at the end can be dropped and it's okay. Okay, because really we keep that 0 there because we're talking about money, and money always goes to the hundreds place, but technically that 0 is holding the place of nothing, and so we don't really need it. So A is correct. Letter B, it's 2.5x plus 0.5x. In that one, they're trying to take the number of games and attach it to the admission. Okay, if I play 10 games, I'll pay 50 cents times 10, but I don't want to pay $2.50 times the number of games I'm going to play. So B is not correct. Letter C, it says $2.50 or 2.50 plus 0.50x. That's exactly what I wrote down here, and so that one is correct. Letter D, it says 0.50 plus 2.50x. In this one, they're trying to take the number of games and attach it to the admission, multiplied by the admission, and then give you the price per game for free just one time. The price per game is multiplied by the number of games, not by the admission. So letter D is incorrect. And then finally letter E, 0.50 times x plus 2.50. Well, that's what I have here. They've just switched it around, and that's okay to do based on the commutative property of multiplication. So my answers there are A, C, E, which is fitting because I believe that you will be able to ace this upcoming focus quiz. All right, so there's our focus for this week. Hopefully it's been helpful for you. Again, watch this video as much as you need to, review with your own paper on your own, and make sure that you are prepared for this week's focus quiz. I'm Mr. Regner. This has been the Aftermath. Have a great day.
Math! Aftermath, it's the aftermath. Aftermath, it's the aftermath. Math class is fun, but when it's done, stay in the zone. On your own, it's math review, made just for you. Take a video wherever you go. Aftermath, it's the aftermath. Aftermath, it's the aftermath. Oh yeah.